Okay, here is the very quick and dirty text review. It's just going to take a few minutes to go through this. Just pause it and replay it as you like. You're going to have lots of tabs along the bottom, as you already know. Make sure you use your little arrows if you can't see all the tabs you need to see to get through there. The first thing you're going to do is be asked to do some sort of autofill example, and just be ready for it to be either kind of going column by column, or it might be something that repeats row by row. This one has a column that then repeats as a series. It goes as a series. So to do one that's like a column in this example, just very quickly, quarter one, let me spell that exactly right, QRT1. Then I'm going to fill out the rest here. Just still need to add the time here, 1:00. I'm going to do a space and then hit a P. And when I hit enter, I'm going to do a 1:00, do a space and just hit a P. When I hit enter, it automatically makes that a time, makes it PM, and then January, JAN. I want to do this as quickly as possible, so I'm just going to select my entire column and wait till I get a thin plus down on the bottom right hand corner. Click and drag it across. As I drag it across, I see that it gives me until July. See my little July there? I release and I have it. I just need to clean this up a little bit, so I'm going to delete some of these quarters. I'm going to bold these with the bold up here, or I could have used Control B. I said I wanted all the text to be centered, so I'm going to select everything and go up to my alignment group and hit center. And I did say I wanted the times to be right justified or right aligned. So I'm going to come back up here and do right aligned. And I think all of that looks good. Okay, moving on. Formulas. You're going to be asked to add a number to another number for the formula and then to complete it all the way down. Here you're being asked to add 200 to the salary. You can read that on your own time. So I'm going to do equal. Then I'm going to click the cell that it equals. Plus, shift to get my plus. Then I'm going to use my keypad to add 200. And then I'm just going to hit enter. And there it is, a simple formula, F13 plus 200. That's what this equals. F13, which is right here, plus 200. And you get the total. Now I'm going to use my autofill handle. I wait till I get my thin plus and drag it all the way down. And there's all of my formulas. You can look up in the formula bar, see that all the formulas are there. There is one little extra thing, and that is it'd be nice if you could make this title a little nicer, and I said use light blue 40% accent. I just simply select all of these cells that I want to change the formatting to. On my home tab, I can go to cell styles. You might not see these styles. You might instead see a button called cell styles. It'll be about here. Just click your cell styles, choose one of these, or if you don't see it, hold it down here. I'm looking for 40%. Accent 1, and there it is. So these don't fit very well in here. It's because I'm going to have to probably resize these a little bit. So just select all of these and choose best fit. Then everything should fit just like the other one. Okay, moving right along, let's go to AutoSum. It couldn't be any easier. You just select just the data, not the months, nothing else, just the data, and then you give it one extra column and one extra row, so there's a place for the data to go. You have to tell Excel a place for the data to go and where the data is. Then this is called AutoSum. It's on the Home tab. You'll see it right up here at the top, and I just simply need to click it, AutoSum, and it fills it in. If you have any problem, just delete it and try again. You'll get it right. AutoSum button. Just select the data. Let's move on to formatting. Formatting, you're going to have a lot of data that needs to be cleaned up. What do we have here? All of these need to have currency formatting or accounting formatting, they have these little dollar signs. So I'm just going to come up to my number group and hit the dollar sign. And that was it. What about these? All of these need to be percentages. See, these are all percentages. So I'm just going to highlight them all and click the percent icon up in my number group. All of these have, like, some of them have too many decimals associated with them. So I select them all. I come over here to my decrease decimal. And that looks pretty good there. I could decrease it all the way and then add it back up or whatever. But just get 1 decimal point. That's pretty good. Over here, we might need to center these if they're not already centered and make sure those are centered. Everything else looks good. Special formatting. This is where we change the formatting. We don't have to rewrite these or anything. We're just changing their formatting. This needs to be Social Security. I can right-click and choose Format Cells. I can open up my font dialog box, or I can hit Control-1. I'm going to do Control-1, Number tab. It's under Special. It's called Social Security Number, and there it is. Do the same thing for phone numbers. This time I'm going to open up my dialog box, go to my Numbers tab, because it's not alignment or font. It's all about numbers, and Special, and choose Social Security phone number. There we go. Now this one, when you see it, it'll probably say something like short date, and you'll need to turn it into long date. You just select everything, and then use this drop down up here is the quickest way, and just choose long date. These are your shortcuts for formatting text. And you are done with that. Okay, moving right along, let's go to tables. What's the quickest way to do a table? Well, one way is to go to Insert and choose Table, and just make sure that you've selected a cell somewhere in that range and choose Table. But I can also just stay on my Home tab and use Control-T. Hold down the Control, hit T. It's going to say, is this the range you want? And does my table have headers? Yes, it does. These are headers like name, building, department. Those are headers. And yeah, it has those. So this looks good. First thing I'll notice is that's not the color I want. Well, you can click on your table styles and you can find that color. I even told you this is called Style Medium 3, Orange Style Medium 3. And sure enough, when I hover over it, that's what it says. So I just click and I get it. Next, I say I want to sort the Shift column. That's kind of a mouthful there, isn't it? Well, here's my Shift column. And these little buttons are sort buttons. If I click it, I can just sort it, like smallest to largest. Done. It says I want banded columns. Well, these are banded rows. I want banded columns. Well, if your table is selected and you select your Design tab up here at the top, your Design tab, you can turn things off and on. So I'm going to turn off banded rows and turn on banded columns. Next, it says I want to emphasize the first and last column. Well, right here is first column, and here is last column. Now they're emphasized. What else do I want? I want to justify or align the years column. So I click on my years column. I can click on all of these, and just go back to your Home tab. And here's your alignment. What did we want to say? We want it right aligned or right justified. And there it is. Just make sure that's right. Anything else? Oh yeah, we want to use a total row. Well, click in my table, turn on my Design tab, and right here it says total row. Let's turn that on. I don't want anything here, so I just click here, use my drop down arrow and choose none. But here I do want something, so I just click in the cell, which gives me a drop down arrow. And then I can choose sum. Sum means to add up everything in the column. Over here, we wanted to count the names. There's already total in that cell. So just click and change it to total, not sum. We don't want to add up the names. We want to count them, right? So here's count. Okay, now it looks like that one over there, and we did it all. Very good. Here's conditional formatting. Good news. Everything here is done with the conditional formatting button, conditional formatting. All you have to do is select the text and then choose the conditional formatting. What's the first one called for job rating? Job rating? It's color scales, green, yellow, red. Well, color scales, green, yellow, red. What's the next one? Compensation, data bars, blue. I select all of compensation. Data bars, blue. And the only one that's a little tricky is I want a rule that every time it says north, highlighted in yellow. So I select everything, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules. So these are rules. Like, what are you going to do if you see something? Well, if it's equal to, if format the cells that are equal to north. I did all caps, but it still worked. And then what do I highlight them with? It says light red. No, I don't want light red. So I click the down arrow and choose yellow and say OK. That's it. We did it. Perfect. Good job. Shapes. Well, we already had some here. Let me delete them. You don't need to do this, what's called smart art down here, but you do need to do this banner, this circle, this stuff here. Just very quickly, this is insert shapes. You might also have insert shapes already up here on your quick access toolbar. But if you don't, just go over here and grab some shapes. What do I need? I need a banner right here. See, stars and banners, banner. I'm just going to drag that out. If you click in any shape, you can just start typing. First half, you get the idea. Now, if the text is selected in any way, like my mouse is in there and the cursor's in there blinking, then I can go to the Home tab and I can make it bigger. I'm going to select all my text. I'm going to drag my cursor over it, make sure it's all selected, and then I can make it bigger, and I can even justify it, left, right, whatever. So in this case, you needed to select all the text like that. Just drag your mouse over it to select it. Okay, other shapes, insert, shape, a box. There's a box down here. How do I change the color? Well, I could choose these colors up here, or I could go to Shape Fill, and just choose the color I want. What about typing? You just double click in it and you can type away, no problem. What about this oval? That's the only one that's a little tricky, is doing this red oval. Well, insert, shapes, choose an oval, draw it over where you want it, and under Shape Fill, again, I can choose No Fill. And under Shape Outline, I can choose red. And then there's just an arrow, isn't there? Insert, shape, and I can choose an arrow and draw an arrow. Do I want to make that black? Yeah, maybe. How about Shape Outline, black? How about Shape Outline, weight, and make it thicker? Okay, we did it. We don't have to do this smart art right here. Okay, moving right along. Let's go to printing. Don't let printing upset you too much. I give you an example. We want it to look like this. The bottom line is we need to use our buttons down here at the very bottom right. You see these buttons down here at the bottom right? We need to use our page layout and our page break preview. Well, let's use the page break preview. That's the last button. And all I'm asking you to do is make sure that the blue line right here is set all the way over here, just past the new comp heading, right? Because we don't need this to print because it's blank. And if I go over here, then it will leave all this out. So I just need to move that right there, okay? So now if I go to Print Preview, File, Print, or I could do Control P on the keyboard, you'll see that now I see this all the way across here. Very good. I see all the columns I want. Okay. The other thing I want to do is we also want to add a header. So to add a header, we can do that in several places. You can go to Insert, you can go to Header and Footer and get there. But you can also go back to normal view. You can also just go down here to the very bottom and you can click on Page Layout, little Page Layout button. And now when I bring my mouse over the header, I can see where I can click and add a header, and I just type header. And I can also add a page number. To add a page number, I need to click on my Design tab up above, and then we have all these controls for things we can add in the header. One of those is called page number. If you hit it, it adds the code that will show page numbers. When I click away, I can see it does say page 1. When I click in it, I see the code. So I just click away, click down here. Now to get back to normal, I'm going to have to click down in here. If I'm up here editing, then I can't go back to my normal view. So I have to click in here somewhere. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to come back down here so I can go back to my normal view. Now, I need to freeze this top one so it always shows on every page. Right here it says, use print titles so that the first row repeats on all pages. Well, where is print titles? It's in page layout. You go to page layout and there's print titles. That makes sense, doesn't it? We're laying out the page for printing. Print titles, and it asks you a couple of questions like, what area do you want to print? Well, I don't care about that. What rows do you want to print? Well, that I care about. It'll probably be blank. All you have to do is just put your cursor in here and then click on number 1, and it will highlight the first row and put it right there. It might say print titles. It might say 1:1. Either way, you're okay. And I could close this and go to print preview and make sure everything's okay. But I can also just say print preview right here. So I'm going to do that. Here's page 1. Here's header. And here's my bar at the top. And if I change to page 2, see I'm on page 2, I still have that same header or titles because that's called print titles. So I can just use my little back arrow to get out of there. And we are done with printing. Okay, so now we're on charts. We need to make these two charts based on this data here and this data here. So this chart, this data makes that chart, and this data makes that chart. And these are just our examples. Well, the easiest thing in the world to do is just simply click somewhere in your data, your range of data, and hit Alt F1, and it gives you the best chart it can think of for that data. So I'm going to hold down the Alt and hit F1. And there's our chart. And everything's ready to go. The title, everything. I might make it a little smaller, grab the corner, maybe pull it out that way a little bit for a little better fit, and we're done with it. This one is a little trickier because we do not want all of these totals. See all these totals here? We do not want those. So in order to fix that, we can just select this data right here, but leave out the totals. I also had to leave out the title. It wouldn't let me select that because it would come all the way over here. But I just leave those out because I don't want them. And then I can hit Alt F1. And it gives me the chart I want. But with one small change, it is by product and not by region. So that's why I say you'll need to switch the row column on the second chart. And that's right up here. See where it says switch row column at the top? All you have to do is click on that, and it will switch it. Now the only thing left to do is to add a title. We want to ensure both charts have titles. So I could double click in there, and I can erase that or type over it, and I could type all that in, and you're welcome to do that. But an easier way is just to select it once. Make sure there's no cursor in here. You don't want to look like that. You don't want to look like this with a cursor in there. See that black cursor in there blinking? We just want to select it. And if it's just selected, you can hit equal. And up here in the formula bar, you'll see equal. Then I click once on the title, and you'll see it'll put an address in there. And then I just hit enter on my keyboard, and it puts in the title for us. So with all that done, we're good to go. Let's move on to Sparklines. Sparklines are very easy. They're under Insert tab. They're right next to your charts because they're kind of like charts. And over here, it has its own group called Sparklines. And Sparklines just needs to know where the data is and where you want the Sparklines. And there's many ways to do this. Like this needs to be a line over here. So I'm just going to click line. And it asks me, where is the data? Well, it's right here. So I'm going to select it. Now it's asking me down here, where do you want to put it? So I want to make sure I get it right. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just going to say, here is where I want it. So here's where the data is, up on top, down on bottom. Here's where it's going to go. I just have to select that range and say, okay. Now, I made a bad selection. Look what I did. Did you see this selection right here? And this can happen to you. I went too high. I selected all the way up. And you don't want to select December, right? You just want to select these numbers. So make sure that's right, and then it will work. Okay, over here we're going to do some data bars. Same thing. This time I'm going to select my data first. You can do that if you want. Select your data first. Go to Insert. Go to Columns. And here the data range has already been entered because I selected the data range first. Now all I need is the location range. The location range is right here, and say OK. And we are done with data bars and Sparklines. Altogether, they're called Sparklines. Okay, the next one is you need to rename a sheet, and you need to color it, and you need to move it. Well, to color it, you just right-click, choose Tab Color, pick a color. To rename it, you can right-click and choose Rename. What's it called? Move and Color. And to move it, you just click it and drag it, and a little tiny black triangle will appear showing you where it's going to go. And the little black arrow is right where I want it, just past AutoSum and Release. And we are done with that. Next comes Views, and Views is all about freezing. It's about freezing your row and your column. You want to freeze a row and freeze a column. And over here I said I want to freeze the top row and the first column, and that might be a little different for you. So put the cursor where it needs to be, and the way freeze panes works is it freezes up and it freezes to the left. So if I put my cursor right here in B2, it's going to freeze everything above it, which is row number 1, and everything to the left, which is column A, will be frozen. So this is the right place to select. And then I go to Freeze Panes and Freeze Panes again, and it's frozen. If on the test you are asked to freeze, say, I'm going to go back to my view and Freeze Panes and unfreeze. What if it said freeze 2 columns and freeze 2 top rows? Well, then I would go here. There's 2 rows above me and 2 columns to the left of me. Freeze panes, and see those are frozen, and see those are frozen. And then when you click freeze panes again, you get unfreeze. So I also say here, hide compensate column, compensation, because we've decided we don't want anyone to see that. Well, you know how to do that. Just click on the very, very top, so it'll select the entire column. Right click and choose hide, and it's gone. Okay, that is views. Okay, last but certainly not least is a feature that is extremely useful, and that is called Flash Fill. And you find Flash Fill on the Data tab, and it's over here, about in the middle, Flash Fill. You see it up there? We're going to use that feature to automatically separate data from these columns. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to separate first and last names over here, and we're supposed to separate this address out. Well, there's no room for the first and last name, so I'm going to have to create some room for it over here. So I'm going to select A and B column by dragging up in the actual top row, and then I'll right click and choose Insert, and then just for fun, I'm going to type first and last, just to make it clear. To use autofill, flash fill, not autofill. Autofill is this little guy over here, isn't it, with a thin plus? This is flash fill. To use flash fill, you can use it a couple of ways. My favorite way is just give it an example, like just tell it I want the first name here, so A-V-Y-E. And see, I capitalized the A, made everything the same, right? That's spelled the same. All I have to do is give it an example, and then I have to click away from it and click back again so I can click and drag. So once I give an example, I select everywhere I want it to fill in for me and just click the Flash Fill button right up here, Flash Fill. And it just fills it in for me. I think that's the quickest way. But you could come over here to last and watch. R-U-S-H, there's Rush. I'm going to hit Enter. I'm not going to use my mouse. I'm just going to enter on my keyboard to take me down one. And then I'm going to say Flores. And you see, before I could finish typing Flores, it already figured it out for me, and I could hit my Enter key. That's another way of doing it. But if you don't get to it in time, don't panic. All you have to do is select all this, give it the examples, or one example, and all the highlight everything, and click Flash Fill. It'll figure it out. Okay, it's the same thing over here, super simple, Gallup. I just type it in, give it an example of what I want, select everything, including Gallup, everything selected, and hit Flash Fill. Just do the same for state and zip, and you have completed everything. The last thing you're supposed to do is save it back to the T drive, but I'll help you and make sure everything gets saved back. Good luck.